Yes, we are now. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, welcome everyone to this meeting of the Harpenden Town Council Planning Committee being held on Tuesday, the 1st of November. I will go straight into apologies for absence, please.
Yes, we have one apology from Councillor Pip Liver, who is attending a licensing committee meeting at Small Hills District Council tonight.
Perfect. Do you mind to accept that apology? All in favour?
Accepted.
Lovely. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do any councillors have any declarations that they would like to make at this time? As ever, if you think of one or one comes up during the meeting, do wave me down and we'll take it at the appropriate moment. Item 3, minutes of the meeting of the Planning Committee held on the 11th of October 2022. Are we happy with those as a true record of that meeting? All in favour? Lovely.
Okay, those are agreed. If I can ask the chair to
sign them.
You do? Yeah, because you are the chairman for tonight's meeting.
Lovely stuff.
Councillor Farmer signs the minutes from the last meeting.
Just thought I would check before I signed legal documents.
No?
Lovely stuff. Apologies in advance, everyone, how long it takes me to write my own name several times. Ten pages. Lovely. Item 4, Chairman's report and urgent items. I don't have anything to report. Do you have any urgent items, Ellen?
I don't. No, not at this meeting.
Lovely. Public questions in accordance with Standing Orders 22 and 23. Have we received?
No, none have been received, Chair.
Lovely. In that case, I will take item 6, which is the presentation by Lansdowne Land on the planned cross farm development. And I'll hand over to, I'm told it's Emma Hardy who's going to be speaking. So I'll hand over. We do ask if we can keep it as concise as possible. But yes, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I'll just start my PowerPoint. If you bear with me a moment. I hope you can hear me okay there.
Yeah. Very
Great.
clear.
I'm just waiting for it to load.
Always the joys of technology.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do it the other way then. Hold on, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, has it kicked in?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay. Sorry, I'm just waiting for it to actually show for me.
Emma, it's still a dark screen on my end too. Just
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can stop it doing that and go through the more typical screen share route. So bear with me one moment. Please tell me if this works.
Technology is always brilliant until it isn't.
It looks like something is loading, Emma.
Yes. Oh, sorry about this.
Don't worry, it always lets you down the moment you need the technology.
It does. Right.
Promising.
Please give me a shout when something comes up for you.
The screen with us, there we go.
Yep.
Right, we're there. Okay, so good evening. My name's Emma Hardy. I'm the planning manager at Lansdowne. I'm also joined by Angela Koch of Imagine Places, who's going to contribute to the presentation, the second half of it. Thanks very much for giving us some of your time this evening. So just to take you through the site initially, we've got a cross lane running to the north with Grange Court Road branching off there. The mainline railway runs to the east. Along the southern side, we've got Mud Lane, which becomes East Common, Banville Wood off to the west, and then beyond that, Harpenden Common and East Common. Now, this stretch of cross lane just to the north of the site has a 30 mph speed limit on it. So we are proposing to put forward an application for 30 dwellings on the site, comprising 18 custom and self-build dwellings and 12 affordable homes. Would include access public realm and landscaping. The service plots would be sold, the self-build plots would be sold as serviced plots with utilities and services running up to the plot boundaries. The outline application that we are intending to submit by the end of November will include details of access. It'll include details of the plot layout and the internal routes. And it will also include design codes and parameters and an overall landscape strategy. One moment. Sorry. In terms of the affordable strategy, this has changed somewhat from what went forward at. Sorry, I'm having a technology nightmare. What went forward at the pre-application stage with discussions at pre-application stage with St Albans Council. So at that time, we were looking at a discount affordable discount home ownership model. We are now, having taken comments on board and also following feedback at our public engagement sessions that we held in September, we've now moved to a conventional affordable housing model of shared ownership. Oh, sorry, has something changed there?
You're back on the first slide.
Right, okay. What's going on here? I think it's kicked in on the way I was trying to do it initially. I might just have to stop sharing and start again. I'm very sorry. I can't run two presentations at the same time.
I think actually, Emma, by the looks of things, I can control that presentation. As you were just displaying, I can control it from here.
Oh, right, okay. That
Yes,
might be
if
the
you want
answer.
to go back onto that, then I can control it for you.
Okay, have you got a presentation showing still?
No, so I think
No,
we've
it's
just
gone.
taken it off the screen. Yeah, pop it back on,
Okay,
and then
all right.
by the looks of things, I can control it.
Sorry, bear with me. Hold on one moment.
Email the slides to you.
That's fine. If she does it how she just had it before, I can control it.
Let's do that again. That was through the share screen option. Right, I'll just restart it. Right, have you got that?
Yeah, we can see a PowerPoint.
Yeah, we can see a PowerPoint, but it's not actually kind of a started
It's-
PowerPoint necessarily. It's just got your.
It's got the notes as well. I think she obviously.
Here we
Right,
go.
right, okay, we've got it now, Emma.
We're back
Yeah,
where we
so-
should be.
yeah.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. So in terms of the proposal, I think I was saying we're looking at doing shared ownership scheme. It would deliver a mix of housing sizes, and it would deliver a 40% affordable component of the scheme. So previously we were looking at 100% self-build scheme. We've decided to now go down the route of a more conventional affordable proposal to deliver a sort of truly affordable product on the site that can be kept on the site as a public benefit in perpetuity. So that is progress, a change from the schemes that we were initially talking through at our September pre-application engagement with the public. So just very briefly, a few photos of the site just for context. The photo on the left is looking at the northwest corner of the site, approaching from Cross Lane. The top photo there is a view from within the site with Cross Lane over to the right. And then at the bottom, that's the current permissive bridleway that runs alongside the Main Line Railway. As you can see from these photos, the site is quite well enclosed visually through landscape screening, and there's mature hedgerows and trees there. This here we've got on the left hand side, this is the no through route at Cross Lane, so it's looking towards the bridge over the railway, and that's the end point where vehicles can travel, but beyond that you've got pedestrian and cycling and horse riding access. On the right hand side, that is one of the pedestrian accesses into the neighbouring housing development. It's approximately 100 metres to the east of the pedestrian access to the Cross Lane Field site. There's also a further pedestrian access similar to this, a little further along Cross Lane heading towards Southdown. So in terms of the planning context for the proposal, we recognise that the site is located within the Greenbelt and therefore very special circumstances are needed to justify the development. But in our view, we feel there's very strong rationale for putting forward the proposal for self-build, self-commissioned homes and affordable housing at the site. In terms of openness, as hopefully you saw just on those few photos previously, the site is well contained and screened. It's also surrounded by other development with roads, other housing, and the railway to the east. So it's quite a well contained parcel there. In our view, it's also a sustainable location. You've got good pedestrian and cycling connectivity into Southdown over the railway bridge to the east, and therefore the services and facilities that are located there and the bus networks. Housing land supply is a key consideration in assessing the proposal and the benefits that the proposal can bring. The current position at St Albans District Council is that there's a housing land supply of 2.2 years, which is obviously substantially below the 5-year housing land supply required. In our view, the delivery of 30 homes on this site would make a significant contribution to the delivery of housing within the district. And recent appeal decisions show that substantial weight can be given to housing delivery, depending on the circumstances of the case. Likewise, the delivery of affordable homes on the site that meets an identified need, our proposed mix would respond to the assessment of housing need that's set out in the local housing needs assessment. So we'd be delivering a mix of 1, 2, 3 and 4-bed homes there as shared ownership. The NPPF highlights that planning policy and decisions should meet the housing need of a range of groups within the communities, not just affordable housing, but also the need to deliver for self-build. The delivery of self-build in St Albans District, there are currently no specific policies relating directly to self-build. The St Albans District Council Planning Register at 31st of October 2021, there are in excess of 600 people registered as interested in obtaining a self-build plot. At the same time, from the start of the self-build register in 2016 to October 2021, there had been only somewhere in the region of about 90 planning permissions granted. So there's clearly a substantial unmet demand there for self-build plots. And we feel that this would provide an excellent opportunity to meet that need. Compared to the existing use of the site and the amenity value of the existing permissive bridleway, we feel that the scheme that we've put together and will be submitting hopefully shortly would significantly enhance access to the countryside and enjoyment of the countryside. You'll see a little later when Angela goes into her part that we're proposing a large area of public open green space, as well as enhancements to the bridleway there. So compared to the arable farming nature of what is essentially private land, at the moment, we feel that is a positive contribution that the proposed development would bring. As well as that, compared to the intensive arable farming, monoculture farming that takes place on the site, the wildlife enhancements that we're proposing would significantly increase the level of biodiversity on the site. Recent appeal decisions have demonstrated that substantial increase and substantial delivery on biodiversity net gain can be afforded significant weight in the planning balance in that planning assessment. We are aiming for the scheme to achieve Building for Nature accreditation, which is an approach to development that very much looks to enhance and improve nature through the scheme. That's something that I know Angela's going to talk about a little later. So just to talk you through the application strategy, because owing to the nature of the scheme, it's going to need to be a sequence of applications in order to deal with the self-build nature of most of the scheme. So the way it would pan out, this diagram hopefully breaks it down quite usefully for you. The first stage is that Lansdowne will be submitting an outline planning application. We are hoping to do so by the end of November, certainly by the end of the year. So that outline application will seek approval of the details of the access. It would also set the maximum approved number of homes. We'd be submitting design codes and parameter plans for approval that would then lead on to further detailed applications down the line. And we're also looking, whilst not always dealt with that outline stage, we are looking to submit the detailed plot and internal route layouts so that those details are approved at this stage and the subsequent applications can follow on from those. So as well as the details of highways access, pedestrian access points and so on, that arrangement of plots and internal routes would be submitted for approval. We'd also be submitting a landscape strategy, which will help support how and set out how we're going to achieve wildlife enhancements. And that will overlap with the biodiversity net gain that can be delivered through the site, and the overall approach to the design of the site. And we'll also submit an example plot passport, which will show how plot passports can function as a mechanism for the delivery of a successful scheme as part of the site. So if that planning application is successful, the next stage would be for Lansdowne to submit a reserve matters application that would follow on from the outline application. That scheme, that application would include the details of the affordable housing. So we'll work with the affordable housing provider to work up those proposal details and submit those plans, which will need to be in compliance with the details contained in the design codes and parameters as dealt with in the first application. At that stage, we will also submit detailed plot passports for each site, which will break down how the design codes and parameters apply across the site on a plot by plot basis, and that will then form part of the marketing for the self-build plots, so that prospective self-builders know exactly what is approved, what the framework is that they need to work with in order to develop an acceptable scheme and obtain planning permission for their design. That will inform their housing design for the architect and themselves, and knowing what is likely to be acceptable. At that stage, we'll also submit the detailed landscaping proposals for the wider site beyond the plot boundaries. So the matters that relate to the communal areas, public open space that falls outside the individual self-build plots. The next stage of the application process would be for the self-builders to submit reserved matters applications once they've designed their schemes. All the buildings and privately owned outdoor spaces will need to be designed to comply with the design codes, conditions and individual plot passports in order to obtain permission. I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of design codes in.
If I can ask if we can just speed up a little bit.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
To be honest, Emma, you've got to 8 o'clock at the latest. We've got a long planning meeting ahead of us.
Okay,
so we appreciate that you want to share everything with us, but
okay,
yeah,
okay, no problem.
Stage where we'll be looking at this as a true planning application at some point anyway. So
okay, yeah, fair enough. I'll just wrap my bit up very quickly then. So I just wanted to touch on what design codes are, because they're not used regularly. They can apply at different stages, at different scales in planning, including at a site-wide scale. So set of concise illustrated design requirements that will then provide the direction for the future detailed designs of the development. Our aim in utilising design codes is to ensure that the scheme works successfully together as a whole, as a cohesive development, and also responds successfully to the site context. And I think, as I mentioned before, the plot passports is just a tool for applying that at a plot by plot on a plot by plot basis. That can then inform the architects and also be useful for the planners dealing with the application at reserved matter stage. I'm going to hand over to Angela to cover her bits. I will just exit mine. Angela, are you able to share? Or do you want me to share yours now?
I
I
think
think with all due respect,
As a-
I think we might just have
Yeah.
to draw a line there, unfortunately. As I
Right,
mentioned,
okay.
you said that you had, you were going to do a 20-minute presentation and we're almost into half an hour already. So yeah, we've
Right.
got a long planning meeting ahead of us, unfortunately. So
Okay, yes, sorry
yeah.
about the technical issues that lost us time at the beginning. We were happy to answer any questions that people may have. But I don't know if you that's obviously
I
up
think-
to you.
yeah, I think that we're obviously all aware of your contact details at Lansdowne. So if we've got any further questions that we want to potentially put to you, then I'm sure that we can make contact with you at some point. But I know that Councillor Butterworth is quite keen just to get this point.
Just a question to the chair, if it's appropriate to ask the presenters to share their slides, not this particular one showing, but their slides of the development for our records.
Yes, so I was going to say if there is anything that it would be appropriate to circulate after the meeting, we would be grateful to
Yeah,
receive that.
more than happy to do that.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and obviously we look forward to receiving your slides. You can email them through to myself, Emma, and then I can circulate them as necessary. And then
All
obviously we'll, as a town council, we'll be looking at your planning applications once they go live.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks
Okay.
ever so much. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Members of the public are welcome to stay as well, but I suspect if the item that you are interested in is gone, you aren't here for the entertainment of a London planning meeting. Thanks very much.
I'll be more than happy to obviously share those slides that come through from Emma. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. But the good thing is that this meeting is recorded, so I know, gentlemen, you're making copious notes, but you can actually have access to this. It will be on our YouTube channel tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Right, on to the,
Item 7 is letters of objection. I'm assuming we haven't got.
we haven't, no.
Lovely. Very quiet. Read from my inbox. Okay, item 8, applications registered the weeks ending the 7th of October, the 14th of October and the 21st of October. Let's start on page 14. It's always the one that doesn't for me. Okay, so item 5, 2022-2396 at 293 Luton Road. Your observations on this one?
So I have actually helpfully, it's okay, I have helpfully done the printouts of the street scenes, if I can get it out. Just sometimes I think it's easier for you to have that in front of you whilst I'm feeling.
Thank you for that, very useful.
I just thought it would be useful. Okay, so anyway, 293 Luton Road, the property has been extended in the past at ground floor level to the rear and already extends further rearwards than the neighbouring properties. This proposal is to create a small infill of the gap at the side between the kitchen and utility to slightly enlarge the kitchen, a small infill to the rear of the hobby room to fall in line with the existing living room, building line to create a small additional room, and a 2-storey rear extension is proposed over the existing ground floor element to extend 2 of the existing bedrooms, which are centralised on the property, therefore reducing any impact on the neighbouring properties, no tree works and not conservation area. Consider no objections subject to no loss of amenity to the neighbouring properties, policy 72 of the district plan and ESD 1 and ESD 2 of the Harpenden neighbourhood plan effects. I think you can just see on the screen here, also in your pack that I've popped there, you can see essentially that the proposal is looking to extend at the back here. So there's a little tiny infill here at the side, and then there's another little infill that's just here on the opposite side, and then an extension to the rear.
Thank you. Heather, any comments from councillors on this one? Councillor Cousin.
Only to agree with the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Cousin. Councillor Taylor?
I concur. Yes, I agree. Yes.
Lovely. Well, all in favour of the recommendation?
Okay, that's agreed.
Okay, items 5, 2022, 2389 and 2368 not meet the criteria required for consideration. So on to 5, 2022, 2352 at number 2 Aldwych Road.
Okay, the house is on the end of the road and appears to be quite dated. The roof is increasing by 250 millimetres and extending from gable end to hip to side closest to Greenway. Footprint is dramatically increasing with a large rear extension across the width of the property, 6 metres in depth at ground floor and the same depth at 4.5 metres reduced in width at first floor level, reduce the impact on the neighbour's 45-degree angle. The proposal creates large flank walls to both sides, which appear to be quite dominant on the plot, leading to a loss of amenity to number 4 Aldwych Road and an unbalanced look to the street seen in Greenway. Juliet balconies to the front and rear are also proposed, which could create overlooking to the front. Greenway spinning is located to the ridge. Further bulk and plus to the lift of the property is the additional solar panels along the length of the roof facing Greenway. There is the loss of the garage to become a bedroom straight study, which is 4 to 5 bedrooms in total, which doesn't differ from the current property. 2 parking spaces on the plot. The property directly opposite is finished in the same materials, which is full render with weatherboard cladding. Roof materials are unchanged. There are no tree works proposed and it's not conservation area. And I've said consider recommend refusal. Proposal presents an overdevelopment of the plot in terms of height, bulk, scale and massing, leading to a jarring appearance on the streets and a possible detrimental impact on number 4 Aldwych Road. Concern is also expressed that due to the loss of garage, there is insufficient parking provision on the plot. Policy 69 and 72 of the district plan and policy ESD 1 and ESD 2 of the Hertfordshire Neighbourhood and Affairs. So Tony, you might like to look at the drawings from this one, to be fair, yeah, because they will then do justice for reasons from my words.
We had any, were there any objections on the website?
Not when I last looked, well, I'll just double check now. So there's the existing and the proposed, just there. The existing and the proposed footprints, just there, all floor plans, just there.
I'm wondering myself. Just a look at the document.
That's the technical question. Yes, Dan. You mentioned solar panels.
Yeah.
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 Are they permitted development anyway? It's not a conservation area, is it? I just wondered how much of a factor that was.
Possibly, if they're in isolation, then possibly yes, but the fact that they've included them as part of this proposal means that we will look at them as part of the proposal.
Yeah.
No, there's no letter of objection online.
I'll say the solar panels are probably the least objection. I think it's on there.
It just, I mean, it just adds further sort of kind of clutter and sort of. Because it's along the whole side of the wall, or the whole side of the roof, which is on the Greenway. It's not even as if it's to the rear of the property. It's visible to.
On the other hand, there are many other houses I can think of where the panels are in the front of the house. There's Townsend Lane, Townsend Lane. Yeah, can I pass comment?
Yes.
I actually found this one quite a difficult one, to be honest. So I think on balance, I probably agree with the officer.
Yeah.
I think it's the big flank wall that's what sort of sticks in my. I think there's one point, it's a big flank wall down.
Yeah, I think sort of when you look at it from the, existing to the proposed, it just feels rather dramatic, and it's a quite a sizable property anyway.
Yeah.
In a sense, but just
Very adverse effect on the street view, I mean, don't they?
Yeah.
You've got that little green conservation area, whatever what you call it.
I mean, it's Greenway spinning.
Yes, yes, it's spinny, but I meant how you define it, but that's spinning.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't very clear. Yes, that sort of green space that's been created there, and that sort of almost rural aspect down there, which
Yeah.
large flank wall is not in keeping with,
And it's prominent, it's prominent on 2 or 3
Yes,
different
it's
views. So
very-
it's not your standard street scene
it's very
problem.
in
It's,
your face.
yeah. You'll be able to see it from about 3 different streets. Which means you do have to make sure that it, doesn't have an incongruous effect on the streets.
Yes, in particular, whereas along side flank wall it may not matter if there are another house there, but it
Yeah.
isn't, it's the end of the
There
road,
isn't.
therefore
Yes,
it is overlooked from the other side of the road. So
yes.
in a sense, it's a second front. It's on the bigger side.
And it's 2 stories, it's not that it's 1 story, it's 2 story because
Yeah.
protrude right into the back garden.
Yeah.
And also to continue that point, Roger, because there's nothing behind it as well.
Yeah,
Already
yeah,
come
yeah,
from
yeah,
some
yeah.
distance.
There was one similar in many ways, which was approved in recent months. Was it Meadway? First wall, but I mean, it doesn't mean it has to be right here as well.
No, I think we take some on the merits of the individual side. Any further comments from councillors on this one? No? All in favour of the recommendation?
Okay, so Reid,
I think there are more plans, Harry, by you.
Very
You
good,
could lob them back at us. Five, 2022.
Sorry, excuse me. There was one question which arose in your absence last time, as to whether
Oh,
it's
yes.
best to consider call-ins as they rise, refreshing memory, or at the end, to look back and see which ones were important for it. And we stuck to the usual pattern of dealing with them as they arise, but we thought it might be something to add to this meeting.
I think for tonight, I'll take them as they arise, but I'll have a wider think about it, looking at the next meeting, just because I think we'd take some more notes if I was doing it that way throughout the meeting. And come back. But yeah, so for now, we need to decide on whether or not we're going to call it in. Do people have any particularly strong views either way?
Probably marginally decide. So let SADC decide.
Yes.
That's my section.
This be a common view, all in favour of
Agreed.
not calling in?
Agreed.
okay, so that's no call in.
Oh, I've been not done this for a while, I'm very rusty on. Not completely forgotten that's for a vote on the call in. 5/2022/2421 does not meet the criteria. Nor does 5/2022/2434. So on to 5/2022/2058, number 11, Morton End Lane.
Okay, so this is pretty much, as you can see from the picture there, it's a new build. And this application looks for the introduction of a swimming pool, which appears to be a small exercise pool and is located close to the house. There's a great deal of planting and screening proposed throughout the garden, which is a good size to accommodate proposed garden additions, which is patio seating and a pergola. The frontage proposals are sleepers with hedging in front appears to be in keeping with the style and character of the street scene. Property is not in the conservation area, This ends with the properties on the opposite side of the road. Consider no objection.
Heather, any comments from councillors on this one?
Sorry, just for clarification, presumably the main house development, that's already approved.
Long gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was approved here in 2021.
And probably no built, is it?
Yes, pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Virtually, yeah.
And this is a part of retrospective, so I think what's happened is that they've made some of these changes already and they're seeking to have planning permission.
It's a pretty small pool.
It is, yes.
It's a plunge pool and not much.
Yeah, so they term it as an exercise pool.
And I've got current where you have to,
Yeah.
I mean, two.
So you're swimming
pools,
against
Yeah.
the tide in a sense,
Yeah.
yeah.
No distance.
I think so. No problem.
Any other comments from councillors? All in favour?
No, that's agreed.
2022/2383 does not meet the criteria required for consideration. So on to 5/2022/2455 72 Park rise.
Okay, the property is a small bungalow, which is as it was originally built. Proposes to convert the existing garage into habitable space and extend by 6 metres rearward of ground floor level across the width of the property by 4.6 metres at the first floor level across the width of the property. The roof height is increasing by approximately 500 millimetres and is changing in form with the addition of 2 tiled pitched side dormers and a flat roof to the rear to provide 3 bedrooms and a bathroom in the roof space. Proposed 2-storey rear extensions and roof additions create a bulky appearance on the plot, leading to a possible detrimental impact on the neighbouring properties whose rear building line is the same as this properties, especially given that it is a 2-storey extension which extends some way into the rear garden. There are 3 bedrooms proposed, as the existing ground floor bedrooms have become other living accommodation. There are 2 parking spaces provided, no tree works and not conservation area. I've said consider recommend refusal. Proposal presents as no development plot in terms of height, bulk, scale and massing, leading to a possible detrimental impact on both neighbouring properties. Policies 69 and 72 of the district plan and policy ESD1 and ESD2 of the Harpenden Neighbourhood Plan affairs. So, if you want to look at the drawings, to be honest, for this one.
It's very deep.
There's quite a good one, actually, the block plan to show the additions to the roof. And then those are the existing and the proposed.
That's existing.
That's existing and that's the proposed.
If I can comment, my reaction is it's just extending far back into the garden. It's been telling the 2 properties are the same.
Is this all the pictures we have?
It is, yeah.
So we don't have any context on the streets.
They often don't, unfortunately.
It's presumably from the front, maybe not going to change too much because it's already looks to be filling its plot, doesn't it?
How much higher is it?
So it is going higher, yeah. So the roof form's changing. So at the moment it's like a little pitched. So it's going up by ½ a metre, but the roof form is becoming more. Yeah, it's widening.
It's the bulk at the back.
On the front, I think, probably.
So the roof height is increasing by 500 mil and is changing in form with the addition of 2 tiled pitched side dormers and a flat roof to the rear to provide 3 bedrooms and a bathroom in the roof space.
When you lose the pitched roof, it becomes the flat side.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't show us how far back this is coming in relation to the 2
No,
properties
it
either
doesn't.
side. Rather than going to sort of try and guess it.
Yeah.
It's quite far back.
As a general rule, I'm always quite annoyed when they don't give context in relation to other property. If you feel reason.
And one asks oneself why,
Yeah.
yes.
Is there a design access statement?
No. Oh, a line. Yes, there is.
Does that have a say? I mean, it's the drawings, the pictures.
Which one on the screen at the moment is it, Heather?
So let me just.
I think it's the one on the right, isn't it? It's like,
It's, yeah, so it's this one here is the proposed
we see
property.
the next door neighbour to the right. That does look a bit.
Is that an incline?
So yes, it is. So it's the street increases as you go up. But the difficult thing is that this was 2016, this picture. So it's not to say that the house next door hasn't changed. But the general gist, I think, in this area is that actually they are still bungalows.
Yeah. It's also very close to the one next to it on either side.
It's not. I'm not against it as perhaps some of you, but I'm happy to go with it. I don't think it's a massive increase in height, is it? You know,
No, I think it's just the depth, it's the depth and the footprint, really.
From to
condensed.
Yeah, no,
I know it's very hard to meet, but it's,
it's a bit difficult.
I think it will look crap.
Yeah, but
That picture-
look at the sign.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
side elevation is, the side of, I agree, yeah. The side
That's in
elevation
front
is
of all their
rather
attention to the one
dominant.
that's directly in front of them.
yeah, because the present is that.
Okay?
I don't know.
Sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry, apologies.
That's all. If you think of a road like Overston Road, where people have gone back and then the neighbour goes back and, someone has to start it to a certain extent. but-
The thing with Overstone is that they're extremely long, narrow
Yeah,
plots,
that's true.
whereas these are doing a little bit more squat.
If one looks at the line, the first is always the one's got 2 stories, and then there's already an way back.
And I think what adds to this is that the road narrows at the front and it widens at the back.
Mhm.
Plots.
It's on the curve, isn't it?
I'm sorry, I'm happy with yours. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments from council before I move to a vote? No?
Thank you.
All in favour of the recommendation?
Okay, that's agreed.
Lovely. 5, 10 to 22, 2, 4, 1, 0, does not meet the criteria required for consideration. Oh, sorry, I need to do polling, didn't I? Really has been a long time since I've done one of these meetings. Are we minded to call in? Does anyone have any strong opinions? Wants to start us off?
I don't like it, and it's right to recommend refusal, but there's a particular threshold for calling, and I think this quite makes it.
I'd leave it an officer decision.
All in favour of not pulling it?
Okay, so that's agreed, no calling.
Lovely. 5, 2022, 2, 4, 1, 0, again, does not meet the criteria required for consideration. On to 5, 2022, 2, 4, 6, 8, which also doesn't meet the criteria required for consideration. So we're on to 5, 2022, 2, 4, 5, 8, 12 Broadfields.
Okay, planning permission was granted in August 2021 for an almost identical scheme aesthetically. The changes appear visually to be very minor: a tiny reduction in ridge height, a window to the upper front elevation removed, other window size and location amendments across the scheme, and the removal of the rear canopy to the garden extension element. Overall, the proposal has not changed from the previous application, which this committee was not in favour of. Therefore, essentially, I've said repeat the wording from last time, which is recommend refusal. Proposal is still viewed as an overdevelopment of the site with regards to the increase in roof height, creating a 3-storey property and a road of 2-storey properties, which would have a detrimental impact on the neighbouring properties and the character of the street scene. The site of the proposed single-storey garage at the front of the property would be out of keeping with the street scene and would impact on the mature tree on the boundary of the neighbouring property. Policies ESD2 and ESD14 of the Hampton Neighbourhood Plan and 69, policy 69, 72 and 74 of the St Albans District effects.
Just as a point of historical precedent, if there's a minor amendment or relatively minor amendment to something that's already been approved, do we usually recommend refusal again, or do we consider the changes rather than the overall thing?
Well, I think in the past, we've looked at each application on their merits,
Yeah.
but I think I have generally gone of the view when something has been looked at relatively recently,
Yeah.
why would it be that the committee would view differently because of planning permission has already been granted? But
No,
that's entirely for the committee to debate and decide.
I just thought I'd ask the question. Councillor Russell.
Chair, picking up on your point, a similar issue arose the last meeting at which you weren't present. I've done a bit of research. According to my research, and not an expert, the fact that a substantially similar scheme has already been approved with the current permission is a material planning consideration, and therefore it's something we should take into account along with other material considerations.
Yeah.
And therefore, in layman's terms, a sort of bias in favour of approving this because it's sort of already been approved. So what can we do? Unless it's a situation where some circumstances have changed, whatever they may be, or the application has changed in some material respect. But I the bit of that research, I think we look only at the changes and probably come to a view that actually it doesn't amount to much. It might even be improvements.
I was about to say, I actually prefer it to the one that's been approved.
Yeah, and there's no point with respect to the officer in looking at this afresh because something has been approved. And if this were disapproved, then they're just going to build that one. So,
Is it
What's
the
the point?
same height and?
Yes.
Bulk?
Yeah.
Yeah, in that case, I think personally, given what's already been approved, I'm minded towards no objection.
Agreed. I don't want to say.
Any other comments from council?
and I think we can word it along the lines, of drafting of the, in view of the fact substantially similar schemas have already been approved.
Yeah.
We recommend approval in view of them.
We have no.
Rather than mine. Yeah.
That's, I think that, yeah, some wording, I think, for those ones.
I just did that.
Okay. All in favour of that recommendation?
We might just be able to build it. I'm not sure anyone will notice.
It's not encouraged. It's reduced to this. 5/2022/2461 does not meet the criteria, nor does 5/22/2473. Sorry, I've gone too.
No, not at all.
On to 5/2022/2509 at 16 Ox Lane.
Okay, proposal looks to create a ground floor infill extension to the side of and in line with the existing single floor rear projection, create open plan living accommodation, along with two modest extensions to the frontage to relocate the downstairs WC and the addition of a gym stroke study. At first floor level, it is proposed to expand the bedroom size, no additional bedrooms, and introduce a glass balustrated terrace to the centre of the property. Neighbouring property at number 18 Ox Lane has a substantial linked double garage to the boundary of the application site and falls in line with the rear boundary line of the proposed rear extensions. Number 18 Ox Lane is set much further back on a plot in the application property, which reduces the impact on them from the proposed first floor rear terrace. However, despite there appearing to be tree and landscape screening in the neighbouring gardens, there is a possibility of overlooking into the gardens of numbers 1 and 2 Fellows Green from the terrace, which does not have full height obscured glazing to the sides. Consider expressed concern that the proposed first floor rear balustrated terrace could cause an unacceptable level of overlooking and a loss of amenity to numbers 1 and 2 Fellows Green. Policy 72 of the district plan and policy ESD2 of the Harpenden Neighbourhood Planning Affairs. So you can see just here, so the property to the left is a substantial property set back. So there's sort of, in a sense, no real effect on them from the proposals. However, my concern was to the properties to the right, which are in Fellows Green, because this balustrated terrace extends out quite a distance with no side screening at all. So would you like to look at the drawings for that?
It's the first floor terrace.
First
isn't it?
floor,
Bit like
yeah.
balcony, effectively.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean,
19 different things you can call it back.
it's gonna look great. Isn't it? Oh, it's that.
Attention to it, so it's basically it's there. Yeah, exactly. It extends out, as you say, quite on the side.
This one.
To very myself, I just think that you think from there that garden to the right belongs to this property, but it doesn't. It belongs to one side.
I would imagine at some point the house belonged to the garden.
Yeah, it's pretty an influence.
It's quite an old character house, isn't it? Is it the conservation house?
It is actually, yeah.
Probably would be.
I think it is. Let me double check actually. Let me.
And that is, I'm also confident that the main drawing is an enormous terrace. I quite appreciate that first one. I think it was.
You can hold a party on it, almost.
Actually, it's not.
Conservation
No,
area.
funnily enough, it's not. It's actually, it's the only house. So there's Fellows, where are we? There's Fellows Green. So that's the first house in Fellows Green.
Yeah.
That's the house we're looking at. So the conservation area starts next door.
Because I would suggest the conservation area is probably drawn around the gardens of
Fellows Green.
Although
Because it is in the garden.
if it starts next door, one can still have views on
Yeah.
things like streets, obviously.
Yes. This property, by the looks of this map, was built in the gardens of 1 and 2 Fellows Green.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that will also explain why it's so far forward relative to
Yes.
the one next door.
It does look slightly sandwiched in.
Oh, it's over here.
The terrace is gonna be on the side, is it then?
So no, the terrace is in the centre at the back, but it extends such a long way back.
That you could effectively walk out to the
You
end.
walk
so
out
it doesn't turn right
and left, yeah. So there's screening, but the screen is just really, there's a safety rail as opposed to actually creating a
Yeah.
obscure
Yeah.
view. We have seen them where they've had screening that goes up to 6 foot and then it's open at the back.
That's what they got in the house next to me. That's what they've done.
Hopefully they've got, yeah.
I think if it was screened, I'd be more sympathetic to it.
Yes, if it was screened.
If it's screen, there's no issue with it, because you could be looking out over your own building.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or if it was in a location where there was nothing, was overlooked.
So there is, but I mean, if they it'd be okay, yes, it would be okay as long as it was screened, glazed or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, screens to prevent
screened.
looking out of
Overlooking.
to the gardens of 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy with the recommendations personally to express concern rather than refuse.
Yeah.
But if you look at the angles, the screening would protect, side screening would protect number 1, panel screen, but not number 2, so the angles.
Either way, the recommendation is what it is, because we're not recommending screening, we're just expressing.
Agreed. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about number 2. I mean, for example, if you look from our bedroom window, we can see the next door gardens from our bedroom.
Yeah, so like,
So what's the difference is we're not going to be sitting in them.
And another thing as well is actually creating screening for the occupants of that house.
yes,
If they're sat out on this sort of
Yeah.
wide open terrace, everyone can see them.
I never see anyone sitting out in these terraces. You know, you do get it on your front side. I don't know whether they seem a good idea, but I never see anyone on them ever.
Loads of front ones down Overston, I've never seen anyone out on them.
No, it's a good idea, but
Yes, in practice.
you've seen it somewhere on holiday.
The one day a year in Britain you can sit out on a balcony.
It is south facing, so, it's viable, but
Okay, so
Is it all, any more comments?
So I just wondered, have we got anything about that 2-story re extension? It just because I know how squat that house is, I'm just wondering whether that 2-story re extension seems quite too big for the site. But, I mean, if it was 1-story, I think it might be all right, but
very good point, because we need to
it's
think.
quite a big flank wall.
Yes.
How
For
we,
the, particularly of number 1, if they're looking at that big flank wall.
Yes.
A large wall themselves.
Yeah. And because it's an infill, I'd just a thought.
But I agree with Councillor Clifford, but it partly depends on how high the shrubbery or trees are there.
Yeah, whether it's, can't tell.
so what you see there, actually, that might be quite a useful.
Yeah.
It's sort of a very snug fit, isn't it?
Is this the, sorry, no, is this the 2-story extension by the other
Yeah.
property on?
On Fellows Green.
On a screen.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think, I mean, like the actual, the terrace, if it's screened, that's not a problem. It's just, you can kind of see it on that, on the,
Yeah.
just there, and then. Single, goes up quite a long way in 1-story, and about halfway, 2-story, or. first
Oh,
floor.
yes.
I mean, if that was all just first floor and then it had the terrace above it, I think that'd be all right, but it's.
Yes. I see what you mean.
This little bit here, you see. Yeah,
It's like that. Like-
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah.
As it's on both sides, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, you can see it there.
It's already existing on the left hand, on the, I don't say left hand side, on the side of number 14, where that sort of garage is. But then you've got the same now on the other side and in the terrace in between it.
Better right side than me, or even, isn't it?
Because you can't really tell it on the big copy, but you can see it on there because it's. I mean, it might be fine, but it's just something that
You're only extending the flank wall 2-story for that amount,
Yes.
because that's just single story,
Yeah.
which is not much.
I think it's probably okay given how little it is, but.
It's just that section there, isn't it? That's basically, so it's that bit there, that's the added extra stuff, because that's the back of the house
Yeah,
there.
it's not.
That's more substantial than it looks like.
That's sort of the existing back of the house, and then there's the new bit there.
Actually, that's quite a lot.
So with this bit at the back.
Yeah, well, the terrace is the terrace.
I mean, it wouldn't be enough for me to go to refusal, but it'd just be wording that we can put as well as perhaps.
Yeah, I might.
To no loss of amenity.
Yeah, no community in terms of bulk and massing, not just over.
Concerns are also expressed over potential loss of-
Yeah.
Yeah, you just like potential bulk and massing.
So I can use the word, because I haven't actually, I'm just mentioning about the rear balustrated terrace. What I need to mention is actually about the first floor rear
Yeah,
extension.
and
Yes.
the impact that could have, particularly on, is it number 1, fellows?
Yeah.
Potential. It's potential, and officers might say it's fine.
I suspect they will.
Although in terms of bulk and massing, everything else around it is a lot bulkier than.
Yeah.
Bulkier.
Yeah. But it is because it's an infill.
Yeah.
Yeah, although I suspect that infill was there before those two houses on the right were built.
I don't think it was.
Because there's a modern house on.
Yeah, well, there might be in the fully houses there.
Down,
Already, but
rebuilt.
they've been made.
The
they've
first
been
one
made
was a rebuild.
It was a
Yeah,
rebuild,
so
wasn't
number,
it? Yes.
number
Not that-
one,
Not
looks
that
like-
long, not that many years ago.
you can tell by the roof, it's a lighter roof.
Yes,
and
so
two.
I can remember that when that came to planning.
In any case. So
I've but essentially just added in the extra word. So I've said express concern that the proposed first floor rear extension and balustrated terrace could cause an unacceptable level of overlooking loss of amenity to numbers 1 and 2 Fallows Green.
I think
Amend that wording at all?
it would also be useful just to mention bulk and mass.
Yeah.
First floor, the first floor extension.
From the extension. All in favour of the recommendation of bulk changes?
Okay, that's agreed.
Is there any more paper out there from this application?
I don't think there wasn't a huge amount of taken there.
Always a joy. Okay, on to 5/2022/2514 at 34 Northfield Road.
Okay, this application is a complete replication of the application that was approved in 2017, which the Town Council Planning Committee had no issue with. The site is part of a row of semi-detached houses that are set back on a raised section of the street, away from the road itself. The property backs onto garage blocks. The proposal is to extend forwards by 2.3 metres and 5.8 metres width at ground floor level to create a study, and rearwards by 3.3 metres across the forward of the property to create a dining and additional ring. At first level, it's proposed to extend rearwards over the footprint of the ground floor extension, but in a centralised position to relocate a bedroom, which has given way for the staircase to the roof accommodation. A rear dormer window is proposed across the width of the roof to provide a further bedroom and ensuite. Due to no changes to the previously approved scheme, I would suggest repeating the wording from the last application, which was no objection, subject to no loss of amenity to the neighbouring properties. Policy 72 of the District Planning Place.
Lovely. Any comments from councillors? Councillor Butler?
Consistent with what we said a few minutes ago, do you not simply say it's exactly the same, it's been approved, then we have no comments.
I presume that the reason they're resubmitting is that planning application's lapsed,
Has expired, yeah.
in which case we think we need to consider it afresh,
Oh, yeah.
because it's not.
That's the point of 3.
Yeah.
Even if it's not changed from the old one that's lapsed.
I mean, they couldn't get builders tomorrow, that's the point, whereas
Yeah.
the last
The
one.
other
could.
one.
The previous permission was a material planning consideration. and it will just be reproduced.
Well, I mean, I think we're going to end up
We're just
reproducing it anyway.
yeah. I don't think.
We're going to end up making the same recommendation, but the wider point is, I think this one is slightly different because the application, the planning, I take the point on it being a material planning consideration, but it getting planning permission or not has a material difference in this case from the status quo.
Debatable.
Okay. Any other comments from councillors on this one?
I'm happy with it.
All in favour of the recommendation?
Right, that's agreed.
On to 2022, 2447 at Sir John Moore School, Manland Way.
Okay, the proposal is to build a new teaching block with performance studio on the site of two existing redundant basketball courts. The block will be 2-storey with a flat roof design with various classrooms, a music stroke performance studio, instrument store, practice rooms and toilet facilities. The existing site is tiered, therefore the building will be set down and appears from Swansea Avenue along with landscaping to be just a single-storey building from the street scene. There are no residential properties close by to be impacted from the proposal. There is a loss of trees and shrub groups to facilitate the proposal. However, new landscaping is proposed across the scheme, along with the addition of 22 parking spaces. Although from the Google site location view, it appears that one court is already allocated with parking provision with parking bays marked out. Consider no objection.
I just say I really enjoy the phrase of a redundant basketball court.
That's their wording.
I know, I just enjoy the concept.
Do you
I'm
like
surprised new school accommodations is required, bearing in mind the new school we've got just down the road from here. That's not mine, it's not our decision.
As the cousin.
I know this site is quite tight for space. I'm supportive of it. There is some public benefit.
I think,
yes?
And the parking,
I think
with Seven Park, you lose all that parking,
So no, they've gained additional parking.
have they?
Yes, yeah. So essentially, there's two basketball courts are going, but one of those is already being used for parking. But we are gaining an extra 20 parking spaces in addition.
any further comments from councillors? I mean, it doesn't have any impact on residents and it.
Well, you can see,
Helps at
although it
school.
is, I mean, it is a much more substantial looking property when it's still in there, but it is set much lower down, and that is essentially what you see from the street scene.
I'd be very loath to say that they can't have a new teaching block at a school, given there's nothing wrong with it.
Particularly a music studio.
Yeah. All in favour of no objection?
That's agreed.
522, 2543 and 2500 don't meet the criteria required for consideration. So on to 2022, 2505, 22 Richwood Gardens.
Okay, the proposal is to extend over the existing ground floor forward projection at first floor level to create an ensuite and to extend at ground floor level to the rear across the full width of the property to expand the ground floor living space. The layout of the detached properties are characterised by garages set back on the plots which are linked to the neighbouring property. The rear extension only extends part of the way down the depth of the garages, therefore no impact on the neighbouring properties. The 45-degree visibility angle for number 21, Richwood Gardens, has been shown as not being impeded. Consider no objections subject to no loss of meeting number 21, Richwood Gardens, policy 72 of the district plan and policy ESD2 of the Harpenden Neighbourhood Plan Affairs.
You have any
Sort of see the layout of the properties where they're sort of the detached property with a garage attached here, detached property, garage attached, detached property, garage attached.
Any comments from council?
You want to see the drawings?
I was going to say, I'm happy with the office recommendation, but it does strike me, it is quite a compact site.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be too hard to be getting an overdevelopment of the site, I think, but I think it's probably just about okay.
Would councillors like to see the drawing?
No.
Would anyone like to see the drawings?
Um,
In that case, unless there are any more comments, I'll move to a vote. All in favour?
Okay, that's agreed.
It also, I have just realised we didn't express concern a minute ago, for which I didn't have a vote on.
No, they've got to be recommended refusal.
It's
No.
got to be,
Can you do express concern as well?
yeah, just to say on the Ox Lane one that we were not recommending a Pullman, all in favour of not recommending a Pullman.
Right, having to carry out the redevelopment of the back area. Anyway, there's no access.
Yes, well,
That's their problem.
that's a
Through the
matter,
garage.
that's a matter for district and neighbours and all sorts of other wonderful things. Not a material planning concern. I've got my wrong page. Sorry. 2022-2466 Hawthorne Close.
Okay, property is a modest bungalow with a flat roof, rear dormer, window to provide 2 bedrooms and a bathroom and ensuite in the roof with 4 skylights at the front. Proposal is a ground floor to extend to the side over the existing hard standing and across the rear of the property in an L shape to provide a garage and further ground floor accommodation. The existing rear conservatory is to be removed. First floor, it's proposed to build over the new ground floor extension to provide 2 additional bedrooms, an ensuite and cupboards. The roof line is not increasing and visually from the front, the roof form has not changed. A large flat roof element to the rear along with gabled sides proposed to facilitate the first floor, the additional first floor accommodation. The neighbouring property to the side of the extensions is set further back in the street and is angled, therefore the proposals did not cause adverse effect on them. There is parking for 1 car in the proposed garage and the front garden is to be paved to provide a further 2 parking spaces. No tree works and not conservation area. Consider no objection subject to no loss of municipal to neighbouring properties. Policy 72 of the district plan and policy ESD 2 of the Harpenden neighbourhood plan plans.
Refreshing, if this is not in garage in, to meet the parking criteria. Any further things that's raised or shall I?
No, that's that.
I wasn't sure if I'd take them on.
No, no, says my bit.
Any comments from councillors on this?
Yeah, I don't know this to create that well, it's a little close, I guess, but just the paving of the front, is that quite normal for the street, do you know?
Let's have a little look.
Yeah, I feel like a big little close is really not the street.
looking at the street view, sorry, satellite view, everyone seems to dump their car on the front, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in any case, given you can pave your front without having coming.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes the connection doesn't always go through.
Technology is a big thing.
There we go. So the property in question is this one here. So I think there's
Big driveways,
a
yeah.
collection
Yes,
of
yeah.
properties
Yeah.
that seem to have done very, very similar.
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. That's fine, yeah, that's fine. It's just like, that's a bit off put by the one next to
Don't
it.
know what that was.
I thought
Okay.
if, like the one next to it, they all had like nice grass and turf and like paving all the way down to. That's fine.
Get rid of all those pollards. Okay, any other comments from councillors? All in favour of the recommendation?
Okay, that's agreed.
Lovely. 5/2022-2491 does not meet the criteria required for consideration. So on to 5/2022-2518 at 9 Wensley Close. I think I remember discussing.
Yeah, this application is a resubmission following refusal of a similar proposal. Observations from the previous application. The property is positioned in the corner of a small cul-de-sac and setback. Property to the side and rear overlooks Cross Lane and the fields beyond with the railway running to the side of the garden. Proposal is to erect a front porch canopy and to extend the single-storey rear extension to run the entire length of the dwelling house. A first floor side stroke rear extension is specifically sited over the existing sitting room area facing towards number 10 Wednesday Close to form large bedroom facilities along with additional bedroom, changing this 4-bedroom dwelling into a 5-bedroom property. There does not appear to be any loss of amenity to number 10 with regards to the proposed side and rear extension, as there are no windows on the front elevation, merely roof lights. The Juliet balcony is shown to be incorporated to the rear of the proposed first floor bedroom, but will have no detrimental impact on any of the neighbouring properties due to the siting of the host property with no dwellings to the rear of the site. The garage is to be retained and there appears to be sufficient on-street parking provision. No trees will be affected. Changes made from the refused scheme are to the 2-storey side extension, which now has a hip roof, reduce the impact on the neighbouring property. Consider no objection subject to the previous reasons, or it should be subject to the previous reasons for refusal being fully addressed.
Thank you, Heather. Any comments from councillors on this one?
Can I have a quick look at the plans?
I think I've done this one. So there's the refused and the proposed. So you can see the changes.
That's the pin.
Design for cable.
New one. Doesn't much difference.
Didn't have an objection to it last time.
No.
Yeah, I know that. I must admit, when I looked at this in detail the other day, I wasn't too happy with it. This is them trying to squeeze the cord into the pint pot again.
It's a strange top size. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of that, but it's ridiculous for any species.
It's sort of right angles.
Yeah.
If the majority view is to approve it, I'm not going to. I just think it looks a bit, I think it's trying to squeeze far too much onto the site. And interestingly, the district council actually talked about, an acceptable overbearing impact to the occupants of number 10, etc.
Yeah.
Which, and I don't see much difference.
Some points before, I think we have to respect the points which St Albans made in the refusal.
Yeah.
Rather than ignore them. And therefore, I think we have to look at whether the new plans actually remove the objections. And a quick look, you still got to see the difference. So it's actually quite challenging to work out what that takes.
It's just literally, they've changed the roof form. They've hit it, I think, as opposed to having it as a gable, I think.
They've done it very deliberately to try and get around the light problem. What you can see on here is that they've got a specific drawing of the light, the specific ground floor window.
Because they make mention in the refusal of the loss of light. The ground floor side habitable room of number 10 Wednesday Close.
Others that were not St Albans, we're in a overthink, yeah. Not by the commission. What Heather has written, no objection, so it's the reason for refusal being fully addressed is right.
Yeah.
But concerned that it might not be or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, for St Albans to work it out, because we don't work the details, and
Yeah.
so as they do.
That's the top.
Just send to them. Yes, if you don't think they've been fully addressed, then they'll refuse again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that way to go with that. Yeah. Well, we could say no objections as a reason should be fully addressed, which is not clear from the plans. I think it's not clear.
I feel as though I would be like to be slightly more negative than my objection, looking at what SAD's. Very similar.
I think if we're doing which they don't appear to have been, then the recommendation is actually express concern that the reasons for refusal have not been fully addressed.
Yeah.
And I don't think they need to be more specific than that, because they know what the reason for refusal are, because they refused it last time. And I think given what's been said, I think that would be the recommendation I would go with. All in favour of that as a recommendation? All in favour of not calling it in? Yeah, all that.
Yep. And do you look at logical sense?
2022-2486 does not meet the criteria required for consideration. So we're on to 2022-2515, which feels like we only spoke about 3 or 4 months
I
ago.
reckon.
2 meetings ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't very
It wasn't
long ago.
good.
Stallwards have done that one awfully quickly.
Okay, the refused application was very recently considered by this committee, which also had concerns and recommended refusal. The resubmitted scheme follows the same principles as the refused scheme, apart from the roof form to the side of number 10 barn scheme has been picked to reduce the impact on them from the dominance of the roof form. All other aspects remain. The proposal to fully address the committee's concerns. And then I said, consider the committee recommend refusal for the following reasons. The proposed 2-storey side extensions and the raising of the roof form create an unacceptable effect on the street scene. Concern is also expressed over the loss of amenity and possible detrimental effect on number 10 Barnstein. And then the policies 69 and 70 of the district plan, and ESD 1 and ESD 2 of the Harbour Engineering Plan. A little bit like the other one where there's not a lot to see in comparison to what we had last time.
Yeah, well, as I said, one of the roof one side is
There's the refused one and there's the proposed one. Essentially, all that's changed, Matt, is that bit there.
Yep.
The rest of it is exactly the same.
I think that's enough.
in the design and access statement, the applicant doesn't point out for about 3 or 4 houses in a very close proximity, which have the same features of the refused application.
You know, this site is this site, so.
It's not just scrutiny, it's really like lost immunity to number 10, because I was thinking so close to that. Yeah. But really, if they wanted to go above that garage, I wouldn't want to go any further back than where the rear of number 10 is.
There's also it's a dominant position on the street, and therefore, when you've got an overly dominant proposal, it makes it more overly dominant.
I mean, I can see why they'd want to go over the garage. You kind of sort of fill it out fine, but then it just goes too far back.
It was essentially refused by district on the crown roof.
They changed it from the crown.
Just at one side. So here.
Slightly, well, I kind of get the point that I suspect there are quite a lot of developments in Harpenden where people are built fully over their garage, leaving, but you know, it's not a terracing effect because the other side haven't done
It's got
it.
the garage,
And
yeah.
they go through all the time, so I kind of get their point possibly, that there will be other examples in the town where it has happened.
Yes, but then that's irrelevant. It's the individual site. You don't do it on you don't make a decision on what's happened somewhere else.
That's true, but it's not exactly like crammed in, is it? There's lots of
Well, no, there's the road, the entrance road to the left.
I'm just saying you can't,
Yeah, no, yeah.
you can't make a decision on the, oh, there's no such thing as if you like precedent.
It seems to be consistent.
Any other comments from councillors?
On the wording, if this is what we're going with, I just suggest the first bullet, where it says proposed two-storey terrace extension, says something like, the proposal does not appear to meet the previous reasons for refusal in that the proposed two-storey side extension. Just to sort of where it's there acknowledging we've considered the previous.
Yeah.
Proposal. We've looked in detail, we've considered, so we considered.
Yeah.
Rather than just ignoring it. That makes sense.
I mean, the proposed changes do not still, where are we?
Well, the first bullet to begin, something like the proposal does not.
Must still be detrimental to the character and appearance of the area and the
Well,
streets.
sorry, we've got to finish on
Sorry,
it. Would you write it?
sorry.
You write it then.
Okay, if you finish, councillor Ashford.
Sorry?
You finish, councillor.
Okay. The proposal does not seem to fully meet in that, as just as written, proposed two-storey side extensions.
Is there any further changes you'd like to make? Councillor Cousin, I think you did.
Thank you. I'm just wondering whether we're being slightly, well, we've talked a little bit about other decisions that SADC have made, and then we've sort of like slightly altered our view because of that decision. If SADC basically said, just refuse this on the basis of the roof, and this application has directly answered what SAD said, then is that, you know, a reason why we should be a bit more favourable to it? Because we've been kind of going along with using SADC as an example of where it is almost like, you know, material consideration, the fact that they've given permission. Well, in some ways, they've given permission sort of for quite a lot of this, other than the roof. It sounds as though it's been addressed.
I would agree if they had given permission to other bits of it, but I think because they've refused, I think we have to consider it as a blank slate.
Well, no, if it's their only reason for refusal, then they accepted everything else. Like they write the reports.
Yes, but my point is, I think we're right to raise the concerns that we would raise if this was a regular application, in addition to commenting that it hasn't met the reason for refusal.
I do have some sympathy with what was saying, and I just wonder if we should change it to express concern, using almost exactly the same wording, but express concern rather than refusal. Makes sense.
Yeah, no, I take and understand the point. Any other comments from councillors?
It's unusual for me to just not like something when other people like, well, not like that. I just think that blank was just, I can't do anything up, but very confusing. I'm not being right. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Right, well, as ever, when we've got a split vote, I will start with the highest, the harshest recommendation and work my way downwards. Who would be in favour of recommendation of refusal for this application? Wouldn't vote. And express concern. I would have voted for refusal, which means I think it's a tight vote. Shall I cast? In that case, we've got a
Happy to change my mind.
I think I'm casting the tiebreaker anyway for refusal, with Roger's changed wording. Was annoying.
Okay, so on the basis of that, would you like to pull it in, bearing in mind that we did call in the application last time?
I think personally, I would favour leaving that option open for us to, if we initiate a call-in, then it's up to district councillors, but we give them that nudge to say that this is something that's been refused, that we think probably still needs to be called in again. But I'm open to views, given that this was not a majority.
I think it's so close to the line, as written by the Times votes, that I think a call-in is quite aggressive. St Albans have looked at it, the formative view on the crown roof, come back, it may or may not meet the objections, that's for St Albans to decide. I don't think this merits going to the committee.
Fair enough. I will put, unless anyone else wants to say anything, I'll put a vote and we'll see which way it lands. All in favour of not calling this in?
Or, I'm not calling it in, so
Yeah. So I think if it's still a tied vote, I think I will use my casting vote to not call this one in, because I just think we don't have a committee consensus, and therefore, as much as,
Could I have the documents back, please? Thank you.
I think two casting votes in the space of.
Thank you.
I just find these blank walls difficult to know where you draw the line. It's,
It's sort of disadvantaged if you're on a corner almost.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. 2/5/2022, 2324, at 78 High Street.
Okay, the refused application for an extractor system with rear flue was considered by this committee in July, which recommended refusal. This new proposal is applying for the same, but is proposing a different system which appears to be less intrusive in terms of size, design and positioning on the rear wall, which is much reduced from the previously refused application and can no longer be seen from the street scene. Detailed acoustic and odour compliance reports have been submitted with the application, along with specification details on the plant proposed. The property is locally listed in the conservation area, and I say consider no objections subject to the previous reasons refusal being fully addressed. Would you like to see the document?
If I recall correctly, one of the problem was the impact on neighbouring property, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And also the fact that you could actually see it from the street scene.
Oh, yes.
It's quite a, quite a piece of kit, actually say.
What sort of takeaways are going to be?
I don't know. I can't tell you, unfortunately. They don't divulge.
I think that's the Southdown one.
Sorry?
I think that's the Southdown one.
Okay.
But they're the refused ones. And these are the new ones.
Like a good burger place, like gourmet burger.
Yes.
If you'll put in requests.
Yeah.
by-
You pressed.
Yes, perhaps no refusal because we've already, because we've got.
Someone wants to stick a McDonald's in, I'd be very grateful.
Oh, yes, that's
Okay, be it, Matt.
that's the one that refused. Oh, years ago, there was another.
I'm always the voice of contrary modern.
Well, the Dean can't eat sugars, we're going to be.
Yeah, I-
He went absolutely.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, there's a little side, on the side. And a little window.
Yeah.
You need to get the chicken nuggets from somewhere. That driving all the way to Luton. That's the drama.
Making me laugh. I'm going to say, it's looking at the reasons for refusal from district, the other one, because he's felt insufficient information and concerns about highway safety.
Yeah. Because it was the
Yeah.
parking, wasn't it,
Yes.
as well, was the problem.
So I didn't.
Seems a slightly unusual thing to say.
The highway issues, are they discussed in the application?
They aren't specifically, no.
But that was one of the reasons for,
It was, yeah.
well, it's unusual, but it, so therefore they must have had considerable concerns.
But I mean, obviously, there's so many takeaways and restaurants all
Yeah.
along, aren't they? Next
yes.
door, there's Bangkok Lounge does takeaway and.
I think-
It's surprising.
The main issue with this site is that it's directly opposite the zebra crossing,
Yes.
which is what they're making mention of here. They're concerned, well, basically, it says insufficient information has been submitted with regards to the servicing and deliveries both to and from the site to demonstrate the proposed use would not have an adverse impact on the highway safety given its proximity to the zigzag markings, the adjacent zebra crossing.
Just noting that that was given, was a reason for refusal and it's not been addressed.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, that's
It's not been sort of kind of specifically,
addressed. It's illogical when both.
you know, there's no specific wording that covers that. You know, there's lots of assessments for odour control and sort of kind of acoustics and all these sorts of things, but there's nothing that makes any specific mention of
Yeah.
the highway side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Bangkok Lounges as well, but maybe they're taking a different view because the Bangkok Lounge is primarily a restaurant. So I don't know whether they're taking it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, a view that that's different from what is purely a takeaway.
And probably take away from a restaurant. Ancillary doesn't need its own permission, therefore it's not been looked at.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense.
Quite.
Yeah, fair point.
I do think, I mean, I think we should raise it.
Yeah.
But I think
Yes,
I would make the point that it's very difficult to see what
we can do
broader
better.
use
Yes.
a site like that can have in the context of a modern high street.
Yeah.
If we're saying it can't be used ever for
Well, no,
takeaway.
I'm merely drawing attention.
I
to the
know,
fact
I'm not,
that
I'm
the-
not,
I'm merely drawing attention to the fact that there is a reason for refusal that
Yeah,
hasn't
that
been
makes sense.
addressed.
I wasn't.
But that, I mean, that's right. Yes, and then that's batted back to the district. I mean, that's for them to decide whether they want to,
I know.
and I don't know whether they had, I'm not sure if there were any comments from Highways, whether they raised an objection.
So I've had a quick look and there doesn't seem to have been any.
No, because they're normal, because it's unusual, it is unusual to object to something on highway safety if Highways haven't objected.
I think it's because it's got a zebra crossing. I
But it's
think,
because of the zebra.
Oh, there was something, here, sorry,
There is
I'm
something,
sorry,
but I
yes.
think it is the zebra crossings, the issue.
yes, now as I say, I just wanted to make the broader point, but yes. I think we need to reference, if nothing else, that.
Yeah, the highways say, as the old refused application, there's insufficient information to assess the application. And then they have some comments about the things that, yeah, which the refusal has picked up.
Yeah.
So it was just, you don't know.
No.
Have
no,
highways
okay.
commented on the new one, Roger?
Not that I could see on a quick look.
I mean, we sort of,
Not yet, is the answer. No.
we cover ourselves by saying previous reasons for refusal being fully addressed.
I think I would say, no, I would be more specific. I would say no objection subject to the previous refusal, reason for refusal being fully addressed and the highways authority being satisfied with.
So it's concluding rather than.
Yes.
Yeah.
We could change it to express concern. Whether previous reasons have been.
Yes,
Well, I
We just
think,
don't know.
we don't know because yes, exactly.
I think, yes, I mean, either way, I think more broadly, it's up, what highways say will be what determines whether or not this gets through.
Yes,
And therefore, I'm sort of slightly ambivalent as to whether we
exactly.
know object or
Yes.
express concern.
Just as to whether they provide the information, the three documents. And its report. Of course, they're slow to open. Are they
And probably the ones I've got here, Roger, which
Yeah.
is for the,
Flu thing.
which is acoustics.
okay, right?
And there's a little document that explains the sort of the ins and outs of the connection thing for the
Okay.
silencer. Then we have a carbon filter unit. We have the odour risk assessment. And that's it. The rest of them are just like actual drawings. There's no mention at all about transport assessment or anything like that.
Yeah, you're right. The reports are about flow.
They completely ignored the,
So I think
yes,
no objection should become express concern.
yes, that's, yes,
Yes.
and specifically refer to the highway system.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as ever, I will put the harshest recommendations to a vote and see what floats. With the other wording we've discussed, express concern, all in favour?
Okay, all right.
Carried. And recommendation to not call this in, all in favour? Lovely.
No calling.
5/2022, 2530 27 Claygate Avenue. Sorry.
It's fine, I'm almost there. Okay, the proposal is to extend a two-storey level to the rear of the property to create additional living space at ground floor level and expand the bedrooms at first floor level. No additional bedrooms are being added. The neighbouring properties appear to have also extended to the rear, therefore reducing the impact. Side dining room element is being removed to create a clear access down the side of the property to the rear. Big size plot to accommodate the proposals. The garage is being reinstated from a store and there is ample parking provision. No tree works and no objection is my consideration.
Once again, another garage going. Trends coming in half.
Well, it appears to still be a garage, but it's actually a store.
Yeah. It's nice to see people putting garages back in. Any comments from councillors on this one?
Just to note, looking at the street view satellite, I'm not sure what date, the neighbouring properties on either side seem to have really extended rearward. And I don't know whether this has been extended the same or more or less, but it's not.
Any further comments? All in favour of the recommendation?
Agreed.
On to item 9, appeals. We have an appeal decision at 14 Lakecroft Way, which has been dismissed. And we have notice of an appeal concerning 30 Linmore Nursery School, 34 Sun Lane. I believe it's the outdoor classroom, isn't it? Preservation of the tree works for noting, a list of Weakland St Albans District Council decisions for noting, conservation area tree work and technical applications for noting. The next meeting of this committee will be held on Tuesday, 22nd of November in this chamber. The next meeting of St Albans District Council's Mega Planning Committee, not its official name, will be held on Monday, the 7th of November, presumably in their council chamber. And that, I bring this meeting to a close at 9:12, I think.
Just to confuse us.
Oh, no,
I thought we got very lucky.
Harpenden Town's chamber is still in fact in British Summertime.
Yes, well, we better.